What if I told you the riots erupting in Los Angeles right now aren't just about immigration? What if the real story is far bigger, stretching from the streets of LA all the way to the war torn fields of Ukraine, and masterminded not in Washington, but in London to destroy both Russia and the United States? I'm Barbara Boyd, and this is your Monday Brief. If you think these riots are just a repeat of the 2020 George Floyd summer, you're missing the real players and real purpose. Because ever since Donald Trump rode down that escalator in 2015, I've been tracking the forces waging war against him and against us, the American people. I've seen the British hand in the LaRouche prosecutions before, and I see the same playbook operating now. Now, here's the common take. America's chaos is homegrown, a product of our own divisions. But what if the same Anglo-American intelligence networks that staged the 2014 coup in Ukraine are now running a color revolution right here, using our own institutions, media, and street mobs as their weapons? Don't take my word for it. The evidence is hiding in plain sight if you know where to look. Today, I'll expose the British color revolution apparatus, show you how it fits with the LA riots, and lay out exactly what must be done to defeat it. Here's the plan. First, I'll give you a quick but deep dive into the color revolution against Trump from 2015 to now. Second, I'll reveal how this apparatus is functioning in the LA riots. And finally, I'll tell you how we can neuter and destroy this machine for good. Ready? Let's pull back the curtain. The mainstream media wants you to believe the LA riots are a spontaneous outpouring of anger over immigration arrests in the so-called sanctuary city. They've been using an old script. Bricks, having been previously placed for this purpose, are hurled at cops and their cars, and things go up in flames, and TV pundits and Democrats call it a peaceful protest against a background of a city on fire, just like the summer 2020 George Floyd riots. The difference now is that we have a president and a cabinet firmly in charge behind him, along with an American public ready to learn and fight for the future and, coincidentally, enforce the law. If you look at the players, the funding, and the timing, you'll see a pattern that matches the color revolution playbook used in Ukraine and since 2016, right here in America against Donald Trump. The goal isn't just to protest Trump's policies, it's to destabilize the country, delegitimize the president, and set the stage for regime change. If you think I'm exaggerating, just wait, I'm going to show you. But what you're about to hear is unique. To get this type of brief regularly, join our email newsletter to keep in touch, to keep up, to be part of our community. The link is in the description. Now, let's go back to the second Obama administration. By then, the British Crown's intelligence services and America's own security state, the CIA, Pentagon, State Department, and associated media, foundations, law firms, and NGOs were inseparably melded together. Biden's CIA director, Bill Burns, and MI6's Richard Moore even bragged about this disgusting mind meld last year at an event sponsored by the Financial Times, the City of London's flagship publication. Here's MI6's Moore describing how they work. We do operations together. We will look at operational opportunities and will sometimes decide who's better placed to go for that operation. We call it the best athlete model. Whoever is best placed to go after that. We try and do that in a non-competitive way, which will get the results for both of us. Ukraine was the ultimate prize for the color revolutionaries of the Obama administration. The country was targeted because of its location, history, and culture. It was to be used to wage war and create regime change in Russia. If the color revolution succeeded and the war achieved its aims, all of Eurasia opens up along with all of its resources and land transportation routes. Russia is the gateway to controlling the entire Eurasian continent, and the British obsession with conquering it has already led to 2 world wars. The 2014 Ukraine coup perfected modern regime change operations after some successes and failures in the Arab Spring. Billions were spent by the U.S. government, George Soros, and the British to fund NGOs, recruit street gangs, and rig elections. All this was coordinated by the National Endowment for Democracy, which has been doing regime change for the CIA since 1987. But the real innovation was what is called full spectrum information warfare, NATO's cognitive warfare campaign, designed not just to influence, but to create new behaviors and beliefs. Complete national offensive propaganda control was imposed. Any dissenting information or derivative views were blacked out, just like we experienced here beginning in 2016. The result? A population whipped into a frenzy, convinced they were fighting a great historical battle against a new Stalin, namely Vladimir Putin. Now, Stalin had murdered their ancestors. Neo-Nazis were now heroes because they heroically fought Stalin. Paid neo-Nazi mobs provided the violence, but the real weapon was psychological. A years-long campaign to manufacture consent for the creation of a warrior vassal state, modeled on Sparta, rather than the sovereign one, which spoke Russian before the coup. After the coup, the CIA and British intelligence ran Ukraine's security services entirely. Vice President Biden, the State Department, and the Atlantic Council ran the rest of the state. Ukraine's new national mission: make forever war with Russia, including now, the terrorist operations the British have undertaken after defeat looms on the battlefield. When Trump walked down that escalator in 2015, the British were already preparing their dirty dossiers. They knew Trump would derail their plans. He refused to hate Putin, refused to play the great game. He wanted to save the United States and not see it absorbed into the modern British Empire, which was their plan. So they launched Russiagate, a hoax cooked up in Britain and executed by British and Ukrainian spies, with the FBI coming late to the game and then, through the Mueller investigation, covering the trail to the real players. Every tactic honed in Ukraine was now deployed against the American people. That includes psychological warfare, media saturation, and, when all else fails, violence. Consider the recent assassination attempts. Wisconsin's Nikita Katsip, who killed his parents while plotting to kill Trump and receiving direction from Ukrainian neo-Nazis. Ryan Roth, who tried to kill Trump in Florida, had spent the previous months recruiting mercenaries for Ukraine. Hundreds of NGOs funded by governments and foundations totally policed speech before Musk bought Twitter and Trump won in November, breaking the spell. But it left millions suffering from what has been called Trump derangement syndrome. And those people with TDS are willing to do anything to stop Trump. Unlike Putin, he is not the new Stalin. Trump, they say, is the new Hitler, a better enemy image more inspiring to deranged Democrats. All the street riots during Trump's first term were bought and paid for by George Soros, the Democracy Alliance, the Ford Foundation, and American oligarchs just like the regime change gangs in Ukraine. If Trump had won in 2020, the so-called Transition Integrity Project was talking about using street rioters and the military to overthrow the government. Their working model? The 2014 Ukraine coup, scaled up for America. Now, let's zoom in on LA. Mayor Karen Bass refused police protection to ICE agents under attack by what appears to be a rent mob. She encouraged the riots on social media and is outraged that Trump is deploying the military to restore order. Just on cue, Gavin Newsom is suing Trump and says that he provoked the riots. Nonsense. As Michael Schellenberger points out this morning, this psyop is blossoming on very fruitful ideological territory, just like Ukraine. Criminal immigrants in LA are considered to be the oppressed to be fed and succored. Law is enforced for the rich in gated enclaves. The working classes must live with rampant crime, drugs, and mentally ill homeless. Cops are symbol of an evil white power structure. Now, add to that ideological mess. Karen Bass is a color revolution veteran. She was appointed to the National Endowment for Democracy's board in 2014, right after supporting Obama's regime change operations in Libya and Africa. In Congress, she conducted so-called oversight on the NED's operations, what some might call a very big conflict of interest. Of course, 2014 was the NED coordinated Ukraine coup, which led to the current war. By the time Bass became mayor, she had become NED's vice chair. The street-level LA rioters, their signs were made by the Party for Socialism and Liberation, a Marxist group funded by Chicago billionaire and Maoist Neville Roy Singham, now in Shanghai running Chinese information ops. Another major riot gang, the Coalition for Humane Immigration Rights. It was getting six-figure grants from both DHS and California until Trump cut them off from DHS. And don't forget the longtime shock troops against Trump, Antifa, Indivisible, various communists and Maoists, all deployed against Trump since 2017, none of them previously arrested or punished. Now they're joined by Mexican cartels, desperate to protect their slave labor and drug trade from Trump's border policies. Behind the scenes, the Legal Insurrection Network, Mark Elias, Mary McCord, Norm Eisen, are ready to block Trump's use of the National Guard and Marines. They've been preparing for months, waiting for the violent riots to break out. They even talked about this moment back in 2024 to NBC News. So what do we do here? Well, first, Trump is right to deploy the military to stop the immediate violence. But that's just the start. The Justice Department and intelligence community have to widen their focus. Why is the National Endowment for Democracy still funded and shielded from scrutiny? Why is the CIA protected from exposure of its regime change operations abroad and at home? Why do universities and professors who participated in these operations against Trump still receive federal funding? Why do foundations that supported the coup against Trump still enjoy tax exemptions? And most importantly, why do we maintain the so-called special relationship with the British when it has completely corrupted our intelligence community and strategic assessments? It's time to act with a wider lens, expose, defund, and dismantle the entire color revolution and regime change apparatus. Cut off the money, the legal cover, and the foreign influence. That's how we can finally defeat the enemies of our republic. So the next time you see chaos in the streets, don't ask who's holding the sign or lighting the fire. Ask who's writing the checks, who's pulling the strings, and who stands to gain from America's destabilization. The British Color Revolution playbook, unfortunately, is still alive. It's damaged by Trump's initial moves against AID, the Institute for Peace, the FBI, the universities, and the law firms. But key remnants remain and are being used against us. If we expose the whole apparatus, cut off their funding, and prosecute where it's possible, we can defeat this machine. We have a president who doesn't flinch and who has taken the cup of Gethsemane for us. More of us have to join him in this mission. Now, if you found this briefing valuable, share it with someone you know and ask them to subscribe to Promethean Action. Our goal, again, is to reach 1,000 paid subscribers as quickly as possible. We're at 400. Let's get to at least 500 this week. The 1,000 goal allows us to pay our editors and staff and expand to a daily format. That's what we want to do. I'm Barbara Boyd. Thanks for listening. Stay vigilant, stay informed, organize your friends and neighbors, and I'll see you again on Saturday. Susan will be with you on Wednesday to summarize what's happened in what is sure to be another hugely transformative week.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.